affects a few people, how to involve the informal sector in the formal sector. These are important topics, and any public service is confronted to this. So today I'm pleased to have many important people who will make presentations. So I invite first Mrs. Evita Simsone. She's director of the State Agency for Employment of Latvia. So, Latvia. I also invite Mrs. Florence Dumontier, Director, Europe and International Relations of France Travail. And your applause, please. I also invite Mrs. Céline Jaeggy, who is Director of Legal and Institutional Affairs at UNEDIC. Hello. I invite also, so it is a panel, a women's panel, Mrs. Asma Ben Hassan now, who is founder and president of Tunisia Inclusive Labor Institute. And we end with two gentlemen, Mr. Chawki Ghariani, Counselor of Entrepreneurship at ANETI, and he spent 24 hours to come from his country. So Mr. James Kitos, who comes from Australia, Director of Marketing at Azuria, Australia. So this is a good range of speakers. And we will begin with Mrs. Evita Simsone. So the presentation of Mrs. Simsone, is it ready?
We're going to begin with the mic.
We will have the clicker. Yes. Merci. Here it is. So, Mrs. Simsone, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be today here.
You have to light up.
I'm very pleased to be here today and share our experience, how we support our clients to start entrepreneurship or self-employment. And yes, there we are in a globe. We are one of the three Baltic states. And we are in the middle between Estonia and Lithuania, our closest neighbors. We also have a border with Russia and Belarus and maritime border with Sweden. We are less than 2 million population in our country, but we are 64.6 square kilometers of land. State Employment Agency is a direct administrative institution under the supervision of Ministry of Welfare. And the main tasks of our agency is implementation of the state policy to reduce the unemployment, provide support for unemployed, for job seekers, and persons at risk of unemployment. Also, we provide services to employers, cooperate with employment service providers and other corporation partners, such as municipalities and social partners for government. About our measures, and one of our services to support or to start commercial activity or self-employment. And this activity has been offering for our clients since 2008 already. In this measure, we involve clients registered as unemployed who have expressed their desire to start a commercial activity or self-employment, and whose participation in the event is the most effective solution for their unemployment situation. Participants in the measure, in the measure, they participate in seminars of the agency and business consultants by learning to improving the knowledge necessary to starting a business. Then submit their business ideas for evaluation, and the submitters of the most viable business ideas receive individual consultations on business plan development, and prepare and submit business plans, and then business plans are evaluated by experts in the field of business, and the most prospective and sustainable ones are determined. And when we evaluate the business plans, then we take into account quality of business plan development, the viability of the specific project, and compliance with the existing labor market conditions. Also, justification for the use of the intended investments, and some other criteria we have as well. Then we provide business implementation support, and we conclude cooperation agreements with the authors of most promising business plans, and offer advisory and financial support for the implementation of the business plans. We mentoring the business plan implementation for first 2 years. And in the first year of business implementation, agency offers the financial support, its monthly income support for grant for 750 euros per month, and one-time grant for starting a commercial activity or self-employment up to 5,000 euros. In second year of business implementation, participants can apply for one-time grant, again up to 5,000 euros. And if the participant is a person with disability, then we provide the support for implementation, for adaptation the workplace for implementation of business plan, and this grant is up to 1,000 euros. And let's see on the result of this activity for latest 3 years. And as you can see, the number of clients is growing, or not client, but participants is growing, or applications. It's in the last year, in 2023, it's double like in 2021, but every year we support approximately 70 business plans. And the authors of the most supported business plans have started businesses in manufacturing, arts, entertainment and recreation, professional, scientific and technical services, accommodation, catering, wholesale, retail, auto repair, and etc., etc. Benefits of this event: the former unemployed starting a business became an entrepreneur and employer, and create new jobs and create new workplaces in regions where they start their business. And on the end of my presentation, I will show or share with you some couple of success stories. And there we can see Maira Indriksson. She's created a shop Flora Accent and provides floristic services in a small city in the western part of the country. Then Sylvester Spiekuns has established a private psychotherapist practice, Rehab Factory, and he provides rehabilitation for athletes after the injuries. And Olga Pushkina founded the company Simple Toys, and she manufactures the wooden toys and taking care of ecology and environment and children's health. That's very briefly about our measure. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Evita Simsone. Can you tell me about employment rate in Lithuania?
Employment rate is about 70%, and if we talk about the registered unemployment rate, it's
Talking about the unemployment rate.
Okay, unemployment rate in Latvia is 5.7%, and our registered clients is a little bit more than 51,000 persons in Latvia. But as I said in the beginning of my presentation, we are a small country, and yeah.
We are talking also about the informal economy. And the informal economy, I don't know about Lithuania. You're going to talk about it if you have it already. But in our countries, in Tunisia and other countries like Tunisia, this rate of this informal economy is important. Here, I don't want to say numbers like that, but we're talking about 40%, between 40 and 50% of our economy is in the informal, and that's a huge, as a rate is a huge. Have you got informal economy, and what you have done, if you have it, to let people go to the formal economy?
Yes, we also struggle with that, and we have two different researches about. We call it gray economy. And the worst one tells that we have more than 20% this uninformal economy, but we provide a lot of measures or activities to reduce this number, and the responsible institution of that is Ministry of Finance, but yeah, like the latest activities is that each salary must be paid into bank account, not in a cash money anymore in Latvia. Like, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Evita Simsone. From Lithuania, we're going to move to Australia to find Mr. James Kitos. I'm just going to make this conversation in English with my two guests that speak in English. And thank you for being with us. A 24 hours flight to come to Tunisia. Mr. Kitos.
Thank you very much.
That's it. So you're going to talk to us about the Australian experience and what Azuria is doing for employment in Australia. And I would be grateful if you begin by telling us what is Azuria and what makes Azuria for employment right now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now that I've found the slides, I'll get going. So Azuria is a government outsourced people services provider. We've got over 20 years.
Public or private?
Private. Sorry, we're a private business, but we're delivering employment services. For
Is there public employment services in Australia?
Yes, we're delivering those public employment services. So we've got over 20 years of experience delivering services like this. Australia is our biggest market, but we've got small operations that are growing in Europe and Asia as well. The program I want to speak about today is the Self-Employment Assistance Program in Australia. We're currently supporting over 1,000 customers start their own businesses, and we've got over 30 specialist business mentors that are all experienced business owners or managers themselves that are delivering the program. Just as a brief overview of the Self-Employment Assistance Program in Australia, and pointing out we are only one delivery partner of this program. It is a multifaceted program of 6 parts. It starts off with exploring self-employment workshops that are small 4-day programs to assist customers in figuring out, is self-employment even the right opportunity for them, and then the basic steps to continue down that path if they'd like, all the way through to small business training, which can be small skill sets through to full qualifications that are nationally recognised, as well as small business coaching, which is that one-on-one mentoring that can go for a year period. We have smaller programs as well, like aspects of the service like business advice sessions and business health checks, which are more discrete one-on-one sessions that can be an hour or 3 hours long to provide specific types of support. Very interestingly though, our services can be provided not just to new business owners, but existing business owners as well. If they've got a micro business of less than 5 employees and they are experiencing some sort of operational challenges at the moment, they could access our services in a similar way to a soon-to-be business owner. The program can be accessed in many different customer journeys as well. Someone that does not know much about self-employment, we'd recommend they would start off with that exploring workshop. They could then continue on to training before they even take the first step into starting their own business. Or an experienced business owner that needs help with a specific challenge might jump straight into a 3-hour business health check with us. And there's many other variations of that service delivery. Out of those 1,000 customers we're currently providing services to, around 1 in 5 of our customers are people with disability, around 15% are principal carers, and more than half are women. So something that we invest extensively into is tailoring our service delivery to specifically appeal to cohorts and local requirements. I did just want to share 3 little examples of how we do that in this program. The first one is industry specific for the fitness industry. So the Fitness Business Bootcamp, which is that first one on the left, that was an initiative we've put together with a well-known face and name of the industry, Rob. This person, Rob, helped us run a workshop for existing business owners to tackle specific fitness industry challenges in Sydney. And those customers were able to get immediate tools and tips to assist them in running their businesses. Fitness industry is very cutthroat, high turnover of businesses and customer bases. It's hard to get an established business there. So that's one example of how we can tailor to an industry, as well as those participants of the program, although they received an outcome from us sort of then and there in that session, they were invited to attend further different types of support we can offer over the period since. Visibility was a specific initiative for people with disability. We adjusted our content and our content delivery to explore starting your own business for people with disability. That's a program that, let's call that in the development stage. We've run 2 pilots so far. It's something we want to invest heavily in and to grow that and roll that out across Australia. The participants that like the idea of starting their own business after attending that session then went on to training or coaching services with us. And lastly, Women in Trades. We're working with a business chamber in Australia to deliver a Explore Starting Your Own Business session with young women apprentices that are coming to the end of their apprenticeship. So in-demand industries in Australia right now, plenty of opportunity to start your own business. Again, the people that will be interested there will go on and develop a business plan with them and provide services over a longer term, and many other variations of this we provide. In terms of customer case studies, it's a brilliant program to deliver. There's lots of good feedback and experiences we get all the time. I chose a couple today, and maybe to point out mowing motivations. Lydia is a mum of 4. Lydia found an opportunity to be able to adjust, to provide lawn care services specifically for women that were uncomfortable with male gardeners. So Lydia was able to take an industry that has lots of competitors, carve out her own niche, and is now at a point where she's hiring her first staff member and looks to have a really fast growing, brilliant little business. As well as maybe a different, complete sort of industry. Again, you have the Inflamed app, Marika, who developed the app. That's to help people identify causes for allergies. It's an idea that actually her daughter suggested to her, and she realized, actually, I can create something like that. She's gone off and launched that. It's available on the App Store now, and then, you know, tech opportunity, fast-growing space. I'm sure we'll see achieve lots in the future. So that's probably the overview I had today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. So, yeah, on l'applaudit, merci.
Under your applause.
Stakeholders, communities, how do you deal with them? How do you go to them? How do you convince them to come to Ashuria?
Yeah, good question, thank you. There's probably 2 parts that come to mind with that. I think with self-employment and assisting someone to start their own business, we're only one part of that equation. There are many other key figures in that person's decision to start their own business. That could be another employment service they're currently engaged with that's referred them to us. It could be a local community organisation that's connected with a council or local government as well. So we see a key part of what we do is engaging with other employment service providers, and we actually offer training sessions for their staff to be able to pitch, well, how do you even identify up-and-coming entrepreneurs and small business owners? And what we've found is that there are examples of people that are medium to long-term unemployed, have been unsuccessfully working with employment service providers, being able to find an opportunity where they can go take control of their future and develop a business. And that might be because they have certain barriers where conventional employment was not suitable for them, or a particular passion that they were able to unlock and really thrive with. Maybe the flip side to that, another group of stakeholders for us would be industry associations. So a big part of what we do is go and work with the experts. The experts in certain fields are not often going to be us, so we need to find who those people are and work with them to adjust our training. An example of that would be the Women in Trades initiative with the Business Chamber, but we would go and we can do that with all types of businesses.
I'm trying to get some benchmarking remarks. Unemployment rate in Australia and about the informal. It's very important to know about the informal. Have you got informal economy and how are you dealing with it?
Yeah, unemployment rate's incredibly low at the moment. It's below 5%. Below 5%. I'm just not sure the exact number today. In terms of the informal economy, yes, it does exist. I don't have any stats prepared on that today, but there's incentives to access our program. So not only can you have access of a year's coaching and mentoring support from someone, there's a small financial incentive of $300 to help with business expenses, and there's a real strong network of support we can provide to someone to encourage them to engage and then convert that into formal employment.
I would like to thank you very much, Mr. Kitos.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alors, je vais me tourner vers Madame... oui, on l'applaudit. Merci. Merci. Je vais me tourner vers Madame
So now it is Mrs. Florence Dumontier, Director, Europe and International Relations. After having presented France Travail, please tell us about, give us your presentation, and then there will be a few questions. Giving you the microphone. Thank you. First, hello everyone, and we will meet the challenge of intervening after lunch, which is not easy. Thank you for your patience. First, I want to thank WAPES. I'm the Vice President for Europe, and I thank WAPES, the World Association, and all the team who organized this work, the region MOPA, and greet Ghariani for this organization. This is the second conference I'm at in Tunisia, and thank you because it's much work. It's also an interesting theme. So these issues are very important. Thank you. And the second point, some emotion, because this is the first time I speak on behalf of France Travail. We are 6 weeks old. We were created the 1st of January. So I'm telling it as a joke, but before there was Pôle emploi, 12 years of installation, and even before there was UNEDIC CD and IMPE, PE, but it's a young organization with strong political ambitions, and maybe later I will explain, I will present them. And make a presentation of France Travail will be long now, but I can do it at another occasion. Another point I want to thank you for the presentations this morning, because they paved the way. I heard two main elements, the question of status and the question of borders. I'm young, I am a job seeker, I'm senior, I'm a woman, I'm a company creator, I'm a student. All this reveals a complexity and a challenge of PES. You work on with individuals, with all their components, and what is important is the status of the individual. And the other point, which seemed to me important, it is the word fight. Even though we can use other terms, but it is this perception that creating a company is a sort of challenge, something very difficult, that every day there is something much athletic. It is, yes, and if employment services, if sometimes it is easier, well, it is our job, and it is the same thing in all the stages of the work. So I wanted to add these indications. So a few elements on what is taking place in France. 32% of the French are part of an entrepreneurial chain, 1/3 of the population. So at one stage or another, they contribute at one chain. 92,000 companies were created in 2022. And on these creations, half are micro-entrepreneurs, which means that we create one's activity. And it's interesting because if the company, if the activity increases, well, in the future, these people become directors and clients for the public employment services. And all the countries which intervene today, we encourage micro-enterprises. But because we believe that when employment is not accessible, then you must create your activity. Now, concerning France, it was also presented this morning, but there is the commitment of women, young people, and especially in priority neighborhoods, what we call QPV in our jargon, to allow those who have fewer possibilities to have access to companies and maybe be CEOs. Now, what does France Travail do in this context? First, I would say that the role of the public employment service is to de-risk a project, which means address it and make it positive and not just an adventure. So de-risking the project is important. And the other thing is that whatever happens, even though we mentioned it today, the fact of being in the project is a transforming experience for the individual, and it adds to one's path, which may reflect on something else. In France Travail, we have job seekers who want to create their projects, and we help them. So sometimes we have sorted out, we sort out in projects, we go back to the most adapted partners. So France Travail does not work alone. We intervene on one part of the project. We work with partners. I want to mention one, UNEDIC, and they are here. I'm pleased that we intervene together. There is the question of financing. And we support these projects together, and France Travail intervenes with partners, regional advisors, and a number of other networks. In figures now, around 500,000 job seekers who want to create companies. These are not all young people, because to create or repeat something, it can be a senior business, and sometimes maturity is an asset. 80%, and this is important, so 80% of the companies which are created are supported, and 3 years later they are still surviving, whereas what we know is 1 out of 2 with no support, they disappear. We talked about company mortality, so the work of PES with its partners is to work upstream, during, and after, so otherwise projects may disappear. And we develop a service in France Travail, subcontracted, and it concerned last year 100,000 people. It is called Active Créa. It's part of the services that we provide. The challenges now, and here I come back on the political aspect, the challenge is to promote creation. You will speak about this in 2 minutes? In 2 minutes. And I will end. Yes, okay, I'll be fast. Professional opportunities. It is time in one's life when we must be creative. We can work during 10 years and then change jobs. And the idea is to systematize the coaching of project holders and specialized supporters or coaches, and provide access to financing and creation in a safe way, avoiding isolation. So on the right, I put some examples. We intervene nationally and in the regions. I will end quickly by saying that if I wanted to keep in mind 3 challenges, it is to play the person and the project. But we also play on the project. We de-risk it. Sometimes there are things which don't succeed because the assets are not there. So we support the individual, and we play collectively with our partners, all our partners. We are not alone. When we have a public employment service, it is collective, and this is good for future entrepreneurs. And we play locally, and this is the DNA of France Travail. And we play locally. There are a number of partners at the local level, and it is their mission to work with us. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Dumontier. And now I address myself to Mrs. Céline Jaeggy, Director of Legal and Institutional Affairs at UNEDIC. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I will quickly explain what is UNEDIC, because we intervene along with France Travail. So you're not 6 weeks old. No. No, we have existed since 1958, so a little longer than 6 weeks. But you will see that we have worked a lot with the predecessors of France Travail. In fact, en France, UNEDIC works with unemployment insurance since 1958. We are a small structure, around 100 people, managed by social partners. It is an association, half union organization, half employer organization, managing unemployment insurance. So we determine the rules, and we finance the compensation, unemployment, as we are small, we have operators, and they implement the unemployment insurance. First, France Travail, which accompanies the job seekers and indemnifies them. There are 3.6 million people who receive that indemnification, and for the job seekers. So if I understand you well, France Travail identifies these people, and you, once they have been accepted, you provide this compensation. Yes, to all job seekers. So they register in France Travail, and France Travail checks if they are entitled to such an allowance. So what we do also is we study to inform social partners and the public on the job market and the situation of the people entitled to the compensation. So how does it support the creation of companies? We have 3 support devices in France. To benefit, to have an allowance, you have to be in an involuntary loss of employment. So involuntary loss means technical unemployment, which means that you are not responsible in the form of firing, or it means that the person has not resigned. The person was fired, and the company maybe stopped operating. So there are situations, maybe the person has to move to follow a spouse. So the unemployed people, if they have contributed to the fund, they are entitled. And we have one exception existing since 2019. It is resignation for the creation of a company, which is indemnified. So there are conditions, and the person may resign to create one's company and receive an unemployment compensation. So it is a sort of safety, because the person knows they will have an income. So how does it take place? Since a person is entitled to unemployment compensation, when they create a company, we may compensate them by the addition between the compensation and the income of the company. So there is an income from the company, and part of the unemployment compensation, and the condition is that the sum total should not exceed the preceding income as a wage, because we indemnify people. We don't pay them to get rich. And this addition concerns 236,000 individuals over a year. And we have another device, which is support for the creation of companies. And a person who is a job seeker may benefit, may have a compensation calculated on the basis of the right to compensation, but instead of having it month after month, it can be in the form of a capital. it is a right because the person is entitled to that since the person contributed, so it can be provided in the form of a capital given in two parts. So you manage an envelope of how much? The budget is 40 billion. So this is the whole compensation for all job seekers. And the fund, is it a treasure fund? No, what I explained quickly earlier, it is a contribution over wages. So it is 2/3. It finances 2/3 of our budget, and then the social general contribution, a sort of tax, which does not finance only unemployment compensation. So it is public-private. In fact, UNEDIC, we intervene only for the private sector, not at all for public administration. So normally, public servants are not unemployed, and if they are unemployed, it is their employer which compensates. Because in Tunisia, we have a legislation for public service which compensates if someone leaves for their own company, but it is for a different aim because we have a plethoric number in Tunisia. So we are at around 17% of Tunisian GDP, and we have voted for a law to encourage employees to do entrepreneurship in some periods. So it is benchmarking, which I have just offered. Okay. In addition to these yes, one other thing on these provisions. They represent 4% of the people who are compensated, and they are in creating their companies. We also we intervene at the other end of the chain. If a company stops. So this is support to the creation of companies because they know if they fail, they would still be entitled to an allowance, which can take two forms. There is an allowance for independent workers, which is recent, and it is a lump sum with conditions, 800 euros during 6 months when the company stops, or if a person had rights to unemployment because the person used to have a wage in the past, they can receive their allowance if they still have rights. I have a question because you are presenting. Are all the sectors concerned, or is there some positive discrimination towards workers of digital platforms, for example? No, there is no discrimination, no positive discrimination, because in fact we don't select the sectors of company creation. So we do the support. So we just make sure that it is viable and it is a support to viability. However, we insist on the development of platforms, and we see that 16% of company creation are micro companies by people working on platforms. So it is not huge. It's important that they be in 5% in transportation, but globally it's only 16%. So you have 1 minute left. So in fact, Florence mentioned it earlier, the other form. This is the pattern of company creation between 2010 and 2023. So we are growing thanks to what we put in place globally. And so this is just profiling of company creators. In fact, we see that heads of companies who have created their own companies with the allowances of the unemployment fund. So it contributes sensitively, and 39% of heads of companies are women, which means that 61% are men. So it is improving. 63% are less than 40, so they are mainly young people, and 33% have a level, so they are they are lower than end of high school level. In conclusion, a focus on the studies we have made, recent ones at UNEDIC, on the creation of companies and the way we support them, and a part on international comparisons. I placed a study accessible on our website showing a comparison of the devices of unemployment allowances for company creators or independent workers in 14 European countries. Thank you very much, Mrs. Jaeggy, and your applause for the relevance of your intervention. And now, Mrs. Asma Ben Hassen, who is founder and president of Tunisia Inclusive Labor Institute. We have not mentioned the question of the informal sector very much, even though it is very important in Tunisia. And in 2019, you started a study on the question. And so your presentation speaks of the informal sector strategy in Tunisia and the status of the self-entrepreneur. This status will be discussed later with Mr. Ghariani, but globally, the genesis today of this idea of remedying to the informal with the entrepreneur status. When did this idea start and for what objective?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. Certainly, you have raised the question of the origin of this idea, the idea of working on an attractive legal framework that allows transition to the formal sector. This is a very old idea, and we started a project at the beginning of 2012. It was in collaboration for years with the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training. The objective was to understand the question of the informal sector, because it was the first project that addressed this issue. And when we started, we had real problems defining the informal sector. We had problems with the concepts such as employment sector, informality, etc. You talked earlier about green economy. You talked about underground economy. We talked about illegal economic practices, black, or what do you say, the black economy. So it is important actually to understand and to have figures on the informal sector. Which informal sector are we talking about? So this leads us actually to frame the project. Will we talk about the informal sector and we are an organization, we're a CSO, and we have a social perspective. We are more interested in working on individuals and access to socio-economic rights. We started this project with an initial diagnosis phase on the status of informal employment with an initial study in 2013, always in partnership with the Ministry of Vocational Training to understand the issues of the informal status. Who are they? Who are these people? Are they qualified? What age group? In what sectors of activities? Was it a willful aspect or was it an obligation? Because they had no choice. So we had a great deal of results that we got from the study. There is today this stigmatization of the informal laborers. We said that they are people who are working on mainly for fiscal evasion. And so they can be not identified and registered, but there is a large number of people, because they have been in unemployment for a long time, that exceeded the 3 years. That's why they opted for formal activities, while there are some other state measures that maybe enable opting for the informal sector. There are certain people who seek, there are certainly people who do not want to, who are not eligible for certain employment offers, and there are other sectors when we talk where the sector remains strictly informal. I'm talking about 2012, 2013 already, the beginning. The facilitator says, I don't know who actually said something that really got my attention. He said that in Tunisia, the informal sector is optimization. For some, yes. If we're talking about individuals, that's a fact. For the salaried employees, they don't want to be in the formal sector because they want to bet on social savings and the part that would be paid as taxes. They want to keep that, but actually also be in the informal sector. They're usually individuals who have limited experience, are not aware of the risks, they are not aware of the need and the imperative of social security. And while some others say it is an optimal choice because there is no burden, there is no cost to that. When in the formal aspect, of course, we have to deal with those obligations. For example, during COVID crisis, which population was the most vulnerable that received no assistance? We're talking about the informal sector, of course, and the difficulty of identifying workers. We're talking about the absence of a database. We even carried out a study and we found that 3% of women in the formal sector received an assistance of 200 dinars over 3 months. And they actually also paid a price for that. I'm trying to challenge you here. There are so many who say that COVID is not a recurrent thing. It happens once in a lifetime. But economic crises, that's why we're talking about optimization. Some 2 or 4 years, there has been a health problem, but maybe we will be facing wars or etc. Within this landscape, you seem to draw this need. Whom does it target? Following the results we presented, we established work groups at the level of the ministries with CSOs and different ministries to think about a mechanism to support transition. We came out with 16 recommendations, and one of them is to ease the legal framework, because one of the borders before formalization are administrative procedures, bureaucracy, the fact that the existing regime, the fiscal regime, the social security system do not respond to the expectations of the informal sector. That's why we opted for a population among the informal sector, and it is the people who are self-employed. They are about 40% of the population in the informal sector, which is 44% of the active population out of 1,600,000 active individuals. 44% are self-employed. We know that they have to do with very small businesses, and so this law aims approximately to targets approximately 350,000 to move into the formal sector. Here I would like to address Mr. Ghariani, this question of self-employment or self-entrepreneurs. auto-enterprising? What are the conditions? And especially, are the incentives available? Do they truly allow the transition from the informal to the formal sector? Thank you for this invitation and opportunity. The target population as provided for by the law and the law on auto-enterprising, it is any individual of Tunisian nationality who is undertaking an activity in the industrial sector, traditional industries, handicrafts, or trade. And so this includes only the non-trading activities. So this is the category aimed by the law. Agriculture is not involved. The facilitator asks, no, it does not. It is not included. When it comes to objectives of the law on the self-enterprising status, we are talking about 5 to 6 objectives, integrating the informal sector, based especially on individual initiatives, bringing closer services, broadening the those concerned with social security, reducing administrative procedures, and of course expanding on the fiscal payers population. The Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training prepared in a collaborative, participative way an action plan that aims at the operation of this scheme and to launch the platform of the e-services that would manage all this system at once, because everything is digitalized, registration, post-registration, statements, declarations, all the process is numerical. So starting from the conviction that these people, in parentheses, do not trust the administration. That's why we opted for a system that's entirely digital. Certainly, not everyone has a smartphone, so they may have phones for communication, but not the case. Part of the axes that we have developed, there's one dedicated to communication and training, and involving the various actors and those involved in support. And we can even consider supporting these entrepreneurs in their version. I can give you a user case. The facilitator says, I am in the informal sector, and I want to be part of the formal sector, and I want to be self-employed and self-entrepreneur. What is the advantage? Social status, that is important. You have not allowed me to progress because I'm getting to that. I will answer you. A social status, that's extremely important. When did we test all of this? We tested this within the trainings we provided. At the level of ANETI, we have a tool that is organized your project. It is a module of 5 days for this population, and we tried, based on the work carried out since 2013 and afterwards, to target this population on the ground. But this population does not have the tradition of reaching out to employment offices and others. But how then to reach them? We tried to network regionally with the associations, active associations especially, to educate on the advantages of formalization of economic activities. And we had successful experiences. I do not have figures, but we had hundreds of actions involving especially training and involving partners in this respect. And we had encouraging figures. Maybe Asma can say more about this training module and its content. But the advantage is that we have some encouraging figures that tell us that there's a large number of people motivated and interested, and they actually have been successful in formalizing their activities. And after that, certainly they would have some advantages. And it is and that would be a good example for this entire population that would certainly consider leaving the shadow economy and enter the active economy. We have an action plan, but it's no problem. The action plan comprises 4 pillars. Regulations that includes a number of actions. And as trainer, I prefer simply speaking standing up. The first action, the first axis has to do with regulations, and we have 3 actions to undertake. The first one, issuing of the decision related to the management and organization of the platform. This process will be operational before June 2024. A decision in this respect will be published. The 2 other actions have to do with signing conventions with the various actors, whether they are involved in the process of activation of the status, or with the actors involved in the payment phase. So in many respects, you see the institution that would be driving this action. And so this work has been carried out in a collaborative way with all the involved partners. The organizational aspect will start with the establishment of a unit that is objective-based, and this will also would lead the activities before April 2024. The decision will be published in the official gazette and will be ready. And then we have the governance framework, which has already been established. Now the axis on training. A support guide for the auto entrepreneur will be ready before the end of 2024 to implement the actions and to ensure training, benefiting support staff within these structures, especially at the level of our ministry and the Ministry of Social Affairs. For the ministry bodies, it is the ANETI that would be leading the program. After that, the technological aspect, especially the first 2 actions, setting up or establishing and launching this platform, the SRE would be in charge of launching the platform and will be operational before June 2024 for the first part that has to do with registration and declaration of turnover. And the second part for the other operations will be ready before December 2024. After that, we can move on, Asma, to the last axle involving communication. The first one is developing a communication plan, and this will be in parallel. It's a transversal that practically all the axes will be, all the actions of the 4 axes will be implemented simultaneously or before the final implementation. And finally, we cannot be on our own, either at the level of the ministry or at ANETI. So a training program would involve active associations to ensure support to individuals who want to move from the informal to the formal sector. The contribution of ANETI, I have already mentioned that. We have a group of trainers, about 140. They have been trained between 2018 and 2019. So this is especially for those who are operating in the informal sector. The facilitator says, is Asma your memory? Is it your... It says now just she's remind me of this. So that is the purpose of this module, to ensure support to the individuals that want to move on from the informal to the formal sector, and to educate on self-entrepreneurship. Thank you. And then I go to the panel, to the participants, and give the floor to the participants if there are any questions. The microphone to the speakers. And as usual, recommendations. Please be brief and to the point. The speaker says, I'm taking 30 seconds. I would like to thank the panel. Director General of the Employment Agency of Mauritania. Thank you. I think that for the informal sector specifically, it is a very, very important one that is not taken into consideration when it comes to the employment policies. In Mauritania, stock breeding and agriculture employ no less than 500,000 people, including the value chain, those who sell meat and those who trade in meat and those who transform meat into other products. So I think the public sector and the private sector, and there is the informal sector, and there is an intersection between the three. The informal sector is a great challenge when it comes to formalization, because people would evade the slow administrative process, especially taxation, VAT declarations, etc. So, and also the obligation to go opt for contracts. So actually, it can even be against the employment, the spirit of creating jobs. So there are challenges to be dealt with. And this is what just a remark, and I suggest that we should take into consideration this aspect.
Other comments? The gentleman here. So please introduce yourself. Merci.
From the International Labour Organization. I have a lot of questions, but I'll ask a few. First, I'll start with Australia, the Asulia. Is this part of, are you a provider? Are you working with the ministry in the provision of publicly funded employment services, or this is, how do you collaborate with them? That's number one. Should I ask one by one, or I ask all of them and then they can respond? For France, I have very interesting presentations. My question is, with France Travail now, how do you collaborate between UNEDIC and France Travail, given that the creation of France Travail was basically to try and coordinate different actors? Is there a move towards, more collaboration, or a sort of one journey that different, that participants that come through France Travail also benefit from the services that UNEDIC provides. And finally, Chair, I have a question for Tunisia. I think they have a very comprehensive program for enterprise development, for entrepreneurship development. I'm just wondering whether the move towards formalization or that action plan, whether it's connected to the work that ANETI is providing on promoting entrepreneurship, or this is a work plan for the ministry, not the ANETI. How do they collaborate there? Where is the link? Thank you.
Vous avez compris la question?
So the question is, you talked about self-entrepreneurs. Is it a platform connected with ANETI in particular, or does it concern the whole ministry, not only ANETI? So we will come back to you in a minute, but maybe we take another question and then we give the floor to the panelists. Any other questions? Okay, so Mr. Kitos.
Thank you. So the Self-Employment Assistance Program I spoke about is an Australian federal government program, so that's funded by the federal government. We're a private company that has been contracted to provide that service. We're one of many providers, but we are, I believe, the second largest providing that service in Australia.
Concerning UNEDIC, so microphone. So how are you working in synergy? So for France Travail, we rest on a convention, on a three-part convention. So it existed since the time of Pôle emploi and even before with the National Agency for Employment. So we have this three-part convention with objectives and means, and the two stakeholders of the convention are the state and UNEDIC, which of course France Travail now plans, has ambitions, objectives with means, and this convention is monitored regularly with points, and they are collected with date to be revised, and annually there is a revision. Often it is for 3 years and reevaluated. This is the global point of view. I can speak of the board of administrators, but maybe Céline will speak about it. But for France Travail now, there is cooperation which is being done locally, and many devices which we are now testing, because now France Travail now tests devices before deploying them. And I take the example of the RSA to know that 60% of the people who have this income were not known to the public service of employment. And in the future, everything will be known to be put on the track. And to do this, we work with all the local actors, for example, the departments, because in France, it is the departments who pay this compensation, and today there is local cooperation. But the most difficult part is to consult. It is the system of information, and one of the objects of France Travail is, we know that for us, the heart of our work is data. So we need to have that platform where all the partners will connect for information and to generate data for analysis. So convention, negotiation, local challenges, and a board of administrators. So in fact, we are, between France Travail and UNEDIC, interconnected every day. And in fact, there is the three-part convention, which is the frame, who does what between the state, UNEDIC, and France Travail. And then it is done through at the level of decision-making, the Board of Administrators. And for us, it is employer organizations and union organizations who are also in the Board of Administrations of France Travail. And then the implementation of the regulation at UNEDIC, we develop the regulation of unemployment insurance. We implement, but in fact, on the way of implementing, we tell them what to do, but we are in touch every day. I am in daily touch with the administration. We have meetings to decide what to do, and because it is France Travail, which is on the ground, and we are interconnected.
The case, if this self-entrepreneur project is run by ANETI or it's run by the whole minister, that's it? The mic, please.
Yes, partly, but it was more to do with I knew that from the presentations in the morning and now, and also earlier today, this afternoon, that ANETI is implementing a lot of programs but then the presentation on the action plan and the statute, employment, entrepreneurship status, it was more like it was the responsibility of the Ministry of Labor and Training, or Professional Training. Now, saying, is ANETI part of that, or these are two different, two different tracks? One is managed by the own ministry, and then the implementation is done by ANETI, or they are different programs. Thanks.
Est-ce que l'ANETI est dans la phase d'exécution?
So ANETI, is it in the achievement stage? Which means, are you in the implementation stage, or there are other ministries running this concerning the platform? And as I was saying, the establishment and the design of the platform, it is run by the National Register of Tunisian companies, but in collaboration with many structures like the Ministry of Finance, Social Affairs, our Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training, Ministry of Technology and Communication. And the fact, so it is designated. In each structure, someone is appointed who is responsible for the management on the platform. And for this, there is a whole training plan which was implemented to train these people so that each structure, each referent belonging to the structure runs their own part in the platform. Very clear.
I think it's obvious. Great. Donc, je voudrais à la fin de...
I would like now, at the end of this panel, thank Mrs. Evita Simsone for the relevance of her presentation and your applause. Mrs. Florence Dumontier, thank you. Mrs. Céline Jaeggy, congratulations and thank you again for this presentation. Mrs. Asma Hassen and Mr. Mohammed Chawki Ghariani, thank you. And thank you, Mr. James Kitos, for your presentation. Before we free you, we will listen to a success story. We will end beautifully, and I will invite Mrs. Oumayma Hajjej. Please, you can stay here. Please stay. Oumayma, you have a success story with cookies, which means Coolni, which is the name is Coolni, which means eat me.
À vous la parole, Oumayma.
Hello, this is a cookie, except that it is an exceptional one because you can customize and write whatever text on the cookie. I am Oumayma Hajjej and I sell cookies. I grew in an entrepreneur family, and my father said congratulations when I set up this company. So he supported me, and 1 week later he came with he said, now you have 100 packages. So at the beginning, I had the packages without the cookies, and the letters were unreadable on the cookie. So it improved progressively, and we started having orders of an Instagrammable cookie with butter, no additives, and I did all this from home. I studied, and in the morning and in the afternoon I was in the kitchen, and so I had no structure. It was a small project to have some pocket money, maybe to travel, until I received a call who changed everything. A call from a company to launch the new Land Rover in Tunisia. They ordered 100 packages. They thought I was a big company, that I had a marketing department, sales department, whereas I produced the cookies at home in the kitchen, and they were packed in the living room. We did not have a garage. So we packed the cookies in the living room, and we sent that to our clients. And the problem is that I did not have a license, so I could not make invoices. And I started having orders for the cookies, for end-of-year gifts, and other gifts, and especially for the B2B market, which developed. And So I broke 2 ovens in my mother's kitchen, which I replaced later. Did you bring any biscuit, any cookies? So later we will go to your booth for cookies.
Est-ce que vous pouvez nous implanter pour dire la même chose ou...
So I was obliged to be able to give invoices, to have invoices. I needed a formal structure. I invested all the money. I did not travel. I invested all the money to open in 2019 our first production unit. 3 months later, there was COVID, and no need to have customized cookies. No one ordered cookies, except that since I had a license, I had a risk of bankruptcy. I created products to sell them to the groceries. And among these products, this cup, this cookie cup, and this cup changed. Why? Because it worked at the beginning. It was successful. And so I wanted to develop this. And these are the cookies. And I wanted to develop this and industrialize the process. I identified a machine on social networks. I bought it, but the machine did not manufacture cookie cups, but pies. And it was before Ramadan. And when we say Ramadan, this is the advantage of being in a panel. We have the cookies. And the machine did not make cookie cups, but pie crusts. And it was 3 weeks before Ramadan, so I thought, why not develop a new product, especially that we could no longer make customized cookies for companies or anything. So this is how this machine, which I had by mistake, which became 10 machines, and now we have 12 machines. We developed our range of products, and we sell in many groceries. And in Tunisia, we deliver everywhere in the country. Last year, in 2023, we opened our second production unit, whereas I was alone making my cookies alone. Now we are a team of 10 people, and I hope we will be many more, and I hope the adventure continues, and thank you very much. Thank you, Oumayma. Thank you for the dream to say that from a small cookie, we can make entrepreneurship, which is very successful. Thank you for this testimony. I will taste it, but it looks very tasty. Awaiting your feedback. So, at the end of this panel on entrepreneurship action lever, to put an end to social exclusion. Thank you. I thank all panelists and everyone. And I'm told there is a gift for everyone. It's a virtual visit to be made by an entrepreneur with his machine. You introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank you for being here. We will travel together into the future. Imagine that you can take your child to Carthage to see the monuments and to see the vestiges that were constructed 2,000 years ago. Imagine that with your family, you can visit an archaeological site in Tunisia, anywhere in the Roman sites. You can do anything you like, but from your seat. We used virtual reality. It's a technology that allows us to see in 3D and to have any experience as if we are truly into that. So I'm Ayman Hamami, head of the education department and cultural education experience. We try to promote the national cultural heritage thanks to new technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality. So with the adapted tools, and with this headset, we can have any visit, visual or audio. The startup started in 2018, and 5 years after, we had 5 experiences that have been a great achievement. One concerning the National Carthage Museum. It is a reconstruction, a virtual reconstruction of the Punic port and the Punic city. The second one in Djerba, where we tried to show the world that tolerance between religions in Tunisia. It is a guided visit of the Fadloun Mosque, and you can have the same experience, the Djerba experience, and Al-Ghariba, and the cathedral. And lately, we have been able, we were capable of delivering our last baby. It's an experience that would reveal to us the matma troglodytes with the traditional oil refinery, the the whole homes, and then tomorrow will be available. So please visit us and have an experience, have a first-hand experience of the power of virtual reality. Thank you. So you can actually visit and test this product, virtual reality. So we come to the end of this first day of this international forum, WAPES. I wish you an excellent end of day and all the best, and I hope you profit from the rest of the evening. Please join me for a family photo here. And thank you.
Tout le monde dans la salle, venez au podium. On va faire une photo. Thierry aussi, voilà.
Photo. Just asking everyone to join in for a group photo.
Alors, certains se mettront sur le podium et les autres donc viendront ici. Hein. Moi aussi, je vais être en bas. Les grands de taille viennent à côté de moi. Vous n'allez pas monter, à côté de moi. Oui. Voilà, tout le monde. Madame Ferihan, on vous attend. Voilà. Alors, je n'aimerais pas être le caméraman, le photographe, mais... Allez, tout le monde, ne ratez pas le bus. Voilà, venez. يجاوب بعدين ترى. Les filles يجاوب بعدين مدام فريحان.
Fromage.
ANETI.